Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back. This afternoon, we're going to listen to 5 really pioneering filmmakers who are really sort of often creating ways of reaching audiences and circumnavigating those traditional gatekeepers we were talking about this morning. And they're going to really show us a sort of wide spectrum of possibilities and the kind of tools that we started mentioning in the morning that they've been experimenting with over the last couple of years. But just to reiterate what we were talking about this morning and the kind of things that the panelists were talking about, independent filmmakers and producers are often, in fact, completely dependent. We've seen they're dependent on financiers to finance their films. They're dependent on a whole chain of gatekeepers to find an audience for their film. And as Pete mentioned, this chain starts with often the financier, the festival, the sales agent, the distributor, and then all the different sub-distributors that distributor has to sell to. And filmmakers have no direct link to their audience if they go with the system. And even if you do find a distributor for your film, often the deal you're going to do is for 15 to 25 years. And you're going to have to depend on that distributor to keep your film alive for all that time. And we've seen that once you buy into this system, it's a system that's competing with films that have far more money than your distributor's going to have to distribute your movie. So it's not surprising that only a very small handful of independent films actually are successful each year, and the vast majority have little or no distribution at all. But now the internet is enabling people to reach audiences directly. There aren't the gatekeepers that were there before. People aren't totally dependent on these gatekeepers to reach an audience. And so I think, in fact, it's a really exciting time to be a filmmaker. And it's the first time that filmmakers have the actual means to production, that own the means to production and to distribution now. And I think, Pete was talking before, about, powering the audience kind of has the power to choose now, and the audience needs the power to choose. Actually, filmmakers have the power now to sort of choose how they get to audiences. So the first example we're going to talk about is a filmmaker called Robert Greenwald. And unfortunately, Robert can't be with us today, but he's made a video presentation, especially for Power to the Pixel. So Robert and his company, Brave New Films, are totally independent. They don't rely on any form of traditional distribution or financing to finance their movies or to distribute their movies to find audiences. So we're going to listen to Robert's video now. He's made for us.
Hello, I'm Robert Greenwald, director and producer, and greetings to everyone at the Power to the Pixel conference. I'm sorry I'm not with you this afternoon, but I'm pleased to be able to talk to you about the alternative distribution system that we at Brave New Films have been focusing on. I think it might be interesting to follow along one particular film. I'll choose the most recent full-length film, which was Iraq for Sale. The film was about war profiteering. And the way we approached it from the very beginning, as we did with Walmart and Outfoxed and Uncovered, was to think at the start, from a political and from a strategic point of view, who is our audience, how do we reach them, and what is the way that the film can be a tool for social change. Now, as we started working on it, even literally before we'd filmed any interviews or had our research together, one of our colleagues at Brave New Films, who works exclusively on groups, began reaching out to a whole wide range of groups because war profiteering cut across various lines. There were groups who were anti the war, and this was a vehicle for them. There were groups and think tanks, many of them conservative, by the way, who focus on spending tax dollars responsibly, so there was interest to them. There was the human rights element because of the section of the film that deals with profiteering around interrogation and torture. We reached out to Amnesty International. So before the film was even completed, we had over 100 groups who were partners. And what that meant was they supported the film. They supported what the film was about. We put them up on our website. We linked to them. We had each of them offering their solutions to the problem, which is the other important thing, or one of the other important things that we make a conscious decision, which is we are telling a story. We want that story to reach people. So we used the website. It's a critical piece on any of the films, and the websites are still up. You can go to see them. We used the groups. We use the email list that we've built over the years. And email lists are a critical treasure because people who've bought the movies, we've saved their emails. And each time we do a new movie, we reach out, we tell them it's coming. In this particular case, by the way, I was not able to raise the funding for it. So we went out to the people on the email list, and in one of the most amazing couple of weeks that I've ever experienced, we had over 3,000 people giving us $15, $20, and $25 to allow us to make the movie in the time frame we wanted to do it in. And at the end of the movie, you see all of the names of these people who contributed. It was a very, very emotional and very impactful couple of weeks as they would write in and send their checks and put their names on their website or dedicate it to people who'd been killed in the war. So we had these elements now coming together. We had the film, we had the groups, we had the email lists, and then on the website we worked to organize house parties, people opening their homes or schools or churches. Religious groups were an important ally, union halls, showing the movie, and then after every screening having a discussion about what can we do to make social change. As I say, and I believe this every bone in my body, if people see the movie and don't do something, we have failed. If people see the movie and say, oh, that's a really terrific movie, we have failed. We succeed when somebody picks up a phone, writes a letter, signs a petition, joins a group, does something as a function of having seen this film, or decides to go and show the film to other people. Again, the film is a tool, and if tools aren't used, then they're relatively meaningless. In the fall, we also got very fortunate, the idea that we could launch in the fall, get people energized, and force this issue into the debate and the discussion that was going on in the United States, which happens around elections, worked far better than we had thought. Numerous candidates running for the House of Representatives and the Senate screened the film, used the film, had discussions, had house parties. So it really started to work its way into a whole series of Senate and House campaigns where people were now debating and fighting about the issue of war profiteering and saying, why hasn't legislation passed, or what is your position about war profiteering? It was incredibly gratifying, and we saw a lot of those candidates using our website to help organize screenings and to help further spread the word about war profiteering. Probably the end, if you will, or the end for the moment, was in the spring when I was called to come testify before the House Appropriations Committee in Washington, D.C. about war profiteering as a result of this film. So from starting with an idea, getting the film made, having hundreds of thousands of people see it, screen it, house parties, we're sending it out to libraries. We sent 10,000 copies overseas to soldiers who requested it, who gave it around, and then culminating in Washington, D.C., where members of the House were questioning me about how we found our information, what kind of legislation could they do to fix the problem. It was very, very gratifying, and I think hopefully played a step and became part of the campaign to really cause change, and the beginnings, we're not there yet, of legislation that will help at least, if not stop, clamp down on war profiteering and get people to start thinking about the core idea of the movie, which is what happens when you profitize war. What happens when you take a function of the state and turn it over to corporations who are there to make profit. We are continuing to see that happening now. In the news yesterday, as I'm recording this, was the whole stuff about Blackwater and the killings in Iraq. We've been creating special videos around Blackwater that we're pushing out. So the film continues, the website continues, and the campaign continues. Finally, let me just say that those of you who aren't on our email list, I hope you will get on them. Go to any one of our websites, because what we're doing this year, we're not doing a full film. We're doing short 2, 3, 4-minute pieces. Again, the same goal, to create these pieces so that people will and can use them for social change. And we've had some staggering successes. We've reached in July over 1 million views. We reached in August over 1 million views. We fought Fox Network and helped stop one of the debates that they were going to sponsor. We started the first petition to impeach Attorney General Gonzalez. We raised some money to bring over an Iraqi young woman on Mother's Day, where people gave money instead of giving gifts, wasted flowers and chocolates. So we're exploring, we're trying all kinds of different ways of using the short form, both the humor and some musical, and a lot of it very serious. We're doing investigative pieces around Rudy Giuliani now. It's an amazing, amazing form, and I'm thrilled that we're able to be there at the forefront. And as I jokingly say, I've gone from figuring out how do you tell a story in 2 hours to how to tell a story in 2 minutes. And I look forward, hopefully in person one day, to being able to discuss that with all of you. Finally, let me just thank you for having me here, if not in person, at least through the wonders of technology. I encourage you all to go to the websites. There's a tremendous amount of information there. And please email me. We're happy to try to help spread the word and encourage all of you to use these amazing possibilities that exist out there for all of us. Technology has given us the gift. Now we have to try to catch up to it. Thank you.
He kind of started this distribution method over a series of 4 films, and the second film was a really good example, Outfoxed. It was produced and finished for July 2004. It was a couple of months before the last US presidential election, and he really needed to get that film out because he wanted to, it was really important to get the message out. It was about the Fox News network and how he felt it was sort of like helped rig the election in the past. And he really needed to get the film out immediately in July. He didn't want to wait for the distribution system to take a year or 2 to get it out to limited theatres and maybe to get onto TV, a year after that. And it's kind of really interesting because it's not just, he's managed to get his films out really quickly. He also keeps his films alive. And he uses this, he mentioned house parties, and what those are, if anyone doesn't know, is he gets people on his mailing list or the organizations he was talking about that he gets involved in his films. He gets people to kind of open up their living rooms, and he gives them DVDs to screen for free if they invite 10 people into their living rooms. And he does them over a series of, sort of right at the beginning of the release of his films. For Outfoxed, he did 2,500, so 25,000 people saw his film one Saturday night, and then he did a kind of teleconference afterwards, and then it went on sale on DVD afterwards. So it's given out for free, then it's for sale on DVD on Amazon, on his own website as well, and then there's a kind of audience proof for it, and often his films are released theatrically and broadcasters come afterwards and buy the movie, so it goes in a completely different order to the normal sort of release window. And it's really interesting looking on his website. It's bravenewfilms.org. All the addresses, by the way, of all the people who are talking today are in the back of the book in the resource section. But if you look on the website, he has this tool called Brave New Theatres, and anyone can organise a screening of his film anywhere in the world. And it's really interesting because other filmmakers, I think Aaron and Susan in Four-Eyed Monsters, they're organising screenings of their film through his tool as well. And it's really easy to use, and it's a kind of really simple idea. You simply sort of set up a screening, you buy the DVD of his movie, and you just get people to say to come to the screening. You say how many places you've got. It could be in a community hall or a school, or even a theatre that you've booked up, or it could be in your living room. And you can see from his films they're still being shown all over the world if you look through the Brave New Theatres section.